Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayo Radha Vrindavan Chandra, Radha Vrindavan Chandra, Shri Radhe. Jaya Gopal Nath Ji, Jaya Srinath Ji, Jaya Gopal Nath Ji, Jaya Srinath Ji, Jaya. Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jaya Baladev, Jaya Subhadra. जय प्रहलाद नरसिंह जय प्रहलाद नरसिंह जय प्रहलाद नरसिंह जय प्रहलाद नरसिंह जय गौरानिताय 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 जय गौरानिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय 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 ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद His Divine Grace A.C. भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की ब्रह्मवदो गौड़ीय संप्रदाय आचार्य गुरुवर की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की समावेद गौर भक्त वृंद की all glories to the assembled devotees all glories to assembled devotees all glories to Sri Sri Guroho and Gauranga. So Hare Krishna, today we will be serving Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam and it's in chronological order. The verse that is displayed on the monitor is verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, chapter number 24, and verse number 9. So I would be reading the verse line by line, and everybody can repeat after me. It's always very auspicious to recite the verses of the scriptures, and especially Srimad Bhagavatam. Tatkardamashram padam sarvatya parishtam swayam bhusakam rishibhir मारीचियादिभिर अभ्ययात् तत्कर्दमाश्रम पदम सरस्वत्या परिश्रितम् स्वयं भूसाकं ऋषिभिर मारीचियादिभिर अभ्युआयात् तत्कर्म कर्दम आश्रम पदम सारस्वत्या परिश्रितम् स्वयं भूसाकं ऋषिभिर मारीचियादिभिर अभ्ययात् तत्कर्ममाश्रम पदम सरस्वत्या परिश्रितम् स्वयंभू साकाम ऋषिभिर मारीचियादिभिरव्ययवात् तत्कर्दमाश्रम पदम सरस्वत्या परिश्रितम् स्वयंभुः साकां ऋषिभिर् मारीचियादिभिरव्ययात् तत्कर्दमाश्रमापदम् सारस्वत्या परिश्रितम् स्वयंभूसाकां ऋषिभिर् मारीचिरादिभिरव्ययात्. Ladies, Matajis, तत्कर्दमाश्रम पदम् सरस्वत्या परिश्रितम् स्वयंभूसाकां ऋषिभिर् मारीचियादिभिरव्ययात्. Kindly repeat after me, word to word meaning, translation, and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki tat, that, kardam, of kardam, ashram padam, to the place of hermitage, Saraswatya, by the river Saraswati, Parishritam, surrounded, Swayambhuhu, Brahma, the self-born, Sakam, along with Rishibhihi, the sages, Marichi, the great sage Marichi, Adibhi, and others, Abhyayat, he came there. Translation, and everybody please repeat also. Thank you. Brahma, the first-born living being, went along with Marichi and other sages to the place of Kardama's hermitage, which was surrounded by the river Saraswati. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Brahma is called Swayambhu because he is not born of any material father and mother. He is the first living creature and is born from the lotus which grows from the abdomen of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavata.ca Vishnu. Therefore, he is called Swayambhu, self-born. Pretty short purport today, but we will try to expound by the mercy of Guru and Gauranga. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manoyabhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vedamscha. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayaudhirayet. Shrinvanta swakatha krishna punya shravana kirtanam hridiyantasta bhadrani vidunoti surutsatam nashtaprayeshva bhadreshu नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी निगमकल्पतरो गलितं फलं सुखमुखाद्रवामृतं संयुतं पिबत भागवतं रसमालयं मुहुरहो रसिक भुवि भावुका आराध्य भगवान व्रजेश तनयस तद्धाम वृंदावनम रम्या काचिदुपासना व्रजवधुवर्गे न तया कल्पिता श्रीमद् भागवत पुराणयमलम प्रेम पुमर्थो महान श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभोर्मत इदम नायत्र आग्रह परः नवनीरद निंदित करम रससागर नागर भूपवरम शुभमंकिमचारु शिखंड शिखिम भज कृष्णानिधिम व्रजराज सुतम भज कृष्णानिधिम व्रजराज सुतम राधिका सरोद इंदु निंदिमुख मंडली वंदिये श्रीपाद पद्म वृषभानुनंदिनी वंदिये श्रीपाद पद्म वृषभानुनंदिनी वंदिये श्रीपाद पद्म वृषभानुनंदिनी आजानुलंबितो भुजौ कनकायवधातो संकीर्तनै पितरवो कमलायताक्षो विश्वम्भरो द्विजवरो युगधर्मपालो वंदे जगत प्रिय करो करुणावतारो पतित पावन निताय गौर सुंदर की जय। यस्या प्रसादात् भगवत प्रसादो यस्य अप्रसादान् न गति कुतोऽपि दयांस्तुवांस यशस्त्री संध्यां वंदे गुरोः श्री चरणारविंदम वंदे गुरोः श्री चरणारविंदम वंदे गुरोः श्री चरणारविंदम। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। So, first of all, my obeisances unto all the assembled Vaishnavas, listeners physically present here and online, to all the senior Vaishnavas, Srila Prabhupada disciples, I seek your blessings so that whatever emanates from my mouth will be pleasing and beneficial to the assembled devotees and especially pleasing to our Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas. So I seek the blessings of all of you. So in this particular instance of Srimad Bhagavatam, after Vidurji left just before the Kurukshetra war, when he was insulted very badly insulted by his nephew Duryodhan, he left Hastinapur immediately and he went into the forest and he was graced by Maitreya Rishi, a wonderful spiritual master. And he asked so many wonderful questions. And during his query, Maitreya Rishi explains the different components of pure devotional service and also how the existence and the Prajapatis, meaning the progenitors, how they procreated a mankind. And the Prajapatis, Praja means subjects or people, and Patis means the ones who give, who are the reason for their birth. So here he's describing in this particular Leela or pastime the, the pastime of Kardam Muni, a very great sage who was very well renowned for his renunciation, and his wife as well, Devhuti. And we find that the renunciation of both husband and wife was so amazing. And renunciation is a very integral component that is required to develop spirituality, to develop Krishna consciousness. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his bhajan, which we Gaudiya Vaishnavas call it the Ekadashi bhajan, wherein he says that Madhavati thi bhakti janani jatane palana kori. Madhavati means the austerities of performing the different fasts, especially Ekadashi, the appearances of the different lordships, like we just had day before yesterday, it was the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So there was a lot of austerity. There was fasting until moonrise, approximately 7 p.m. So this is required. Fasting and all these austerities are required so that we can be sense controlled. Sense controlled meaning we have to become Goswami. In Sanskrit, Goswami is a combination of two words. Go means senses, or in Indriya, and Swami means master. Now, practically we see in Kali Yuga that most of us, we are Godas. In fact, we are the slaves of our senses. Our senses have a lot of demands, things that are not really wanted for our spiritual well being and even for our health. But still, the tongue is the most voracious of all. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur also mentions this. We sing this prayer prior to taking prasadam. Tar madhye jiva lobhamai ati sudurmati. Krishna bodo doyamoy koribare jiva joy swaprasad anno dilo bhai. So in this particular a part of the prasadam prayers, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is instructing us that out of all the senses that are there in our body, the tongue is the most voracious or very difficult to control. Whatever the demands of the tongue is, that's what the whole, material world and TV commercials and so many advertisements is all about satisfying the tongue, taste buds. And most of it is completely unnecessary because it only takes us deeper and deeper into a mode of ignorances. And that is the reason why His Divine Guru Srila Prabhupada has given us a wonderful formula. If one wants to progress in spiritual life, then what not only does, just like a good doctor, if you go to a good doctor and if you have some disease, so the doctor is going to make his recommendation in two parts. First part is don't do, the don'ts, and the second part is the do's. So as an example, if somebody is very sick in the stomach, so the doctor will say, okay, don't eat any oily foodstuffs, don't eat anything heavy. And the do's would be take my medicine and eat something light on the stomach like yogurt and rice, etc., or khichdi, right? So these are the do's and don'ts. So for spiritual life, the do's and don'ts are recommended in the scriptures. It is not that Srila Prabhupada had just a dream one day and he said that, okay, you follow the four regulative principles, no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, and no illicit sex. No. Our parampara is so perfect in all respects that everything comes from the Shastra as it is, without any deviation. This is a very important thing. Nowadays, we find that there are so many different so called pseudo spiritualists who concoct things and they misguide people, especially in this age of Kali Yuga. Even in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned. Parikshit Maharaj was told by Sukdev Goswami, Prayana alpa ayushya manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya hi upadritaha. The symptoms of Kali Yuga is that the people are extremely lazy. Manda. Sumanda matayo. They are misguided. There's so much misguidance. We try to find some good spiritual advice, but there are so many of them who come running to us, giving us different varieties wherein they themselves are not spiritually realized. How can they impart it to others? Uh, so, uh, it is so important to control the senses, and that's why the Shastras say, Striyam dutam panam shunam yatra dharma chaturvida. That's as it is, what Srila Prabhupada gave us. Striyam means having some kind of a relationship outside of marriage with the opposite sex. Dutam means gambling. Panam means intoxicants. So that would include the whole range from drugs, cigarettes, alcohol, all those categories, including tea and coffee, because they have this uh, ingredient of caffeine that controls our senses. Most people we discuss, oh, can you not one day stay without tea or coffee? Oh, no, 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 I'll get a headache. So that means the coffee or tea is controlling our senses. We are not controlling that. So like this, there are so many substances that we are partaking, and that is one of the reasons why we cannot understand the nuances of spirituality. Even though we find that we have a pure personality speaking, or we read his books, and we find that it doesn't have much effect. And I like to use this analogy of a latest or the most recent, uh, let's say, a smartphone. I don't know what the newest one is, iPhone 16 or something like this, right? Yeah. So if one buys that for maybe say about $1,500, a very expensive item, and then one goes into the basement and tries to connect, even such a fantastic piece of instrument will not be able to connect because the network is weakened, or you don't get the network in an environment where there is obstruction. So that's one criteria. The second criteria is, although one may be outside in the open, and in spite of that, one may not get a proper signal or a network. That happens here quite often. Anybody experience that in New Vrindavan? So the reason is because the cellular tower is not that powerful. So the cellular tower in this example, I would like to point out, would be like a speaker of spirituality, and the receiver is the mobile phone. Now, to have a perfect conversation or perfect communication, both conditions have to be met: a good cellular tower and a good instrument. Makes sense so far? But nowadays, what we find, that even though if there's a good transmission, meaning pure devotees like His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada has given us so many wonderful literatures, as you can see behind me, more than 100 different Vedic scriptures translated. Srimad Bhagavatam itself, 18,000 verses. This is not a joke. It is not really a common human being's uh, work or task. And as we just said, we just read one verse today with word to word meaning, with the translation, and with the purport or the further explanation. Can you imagine 18,000 verses? And this is just one scripture. So, although we find that sometimes we read through the books or we hear somebody we do not feel that effect because we have a certain weakness. Is because we don't control our senses. It will not enter within our heart because the barriers, just like a basement, we don't get the signal. And because this is Kali Yuga, we find there are pseudo transmitters or false transmitters. We also find that there might be eager listeners who are very enthusiastic about uplifting themselves and entering into a good spiritual life, but the guidance that they get is like a poor cellular tower. False gurus or persons who don't have much knowledge on the scriptures, and they simply make it a business out of it. So the main point that I'm trying to drive home is that if one wants to advance in spiritual life, we see so many examples in Srimad Bhagavatam and our Vedic scriptures that we have to be sense controlled. And the perfect example in this case is husband and wife, Kardam Rishi and Devuti Mata. In the previous chapter, there is a particular part where Devuti Mata is lamenting. Mother Devuti is saying, "Oh, my dear husband, you know, I know that you have achieved so many perfection because he was a yogi. He was a Siddha personality. And you have the mastery of so many powers under the protection of your yog dharana, meaning the perfection of the yoga. And you are also under the control of, particularly Prabhupada has translated that word, that you are under the control of yoga maya. So there are two types of mayas. One maya is the maya that controls us mortals in this material world. And there is another kind of maya known as yoga maya, where pure devotees and even the Supreme Lord himself is controlled by yoga maya. This is interesting point. What does the word maya mean? Ma means not, and ya means this. Ma, ya. Again, it's a combination of two words. So what is not, or when we start believing in it, something illusory, then that is the effect of maya. For example, we all at some point, we're always, even though we come to the temple, even though we have been associating for many years, I'm talking about devotees for many, many years, but even maya is so strong. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Maya Durattaya. It is extremely difficult to surmount Maya. Je mam prapadyante Maya tarantite. One who surrenders unto me will be able to cross over Maya. So this Maya gives us this illusory imagination that, oh, I am this body, I am American, I am Indian, I am Canadian, I am Hindu, I am Muslim, I am Christian. Naradji says this, it is called Upadhi. Naradji says that Sarva Upadhi vinirmuktam tatparatena nirmalam risikena risikesha sevanam tad bhakti ruchyate. When can we attain good bhakti or proper bhakti? Is when we go beyond the bodily concept, which is known as Upadhi. Sarva Upadhi vinirmuktam, when we get freed from the bodily concept that I am this body. And we all know, most of the people who are from the Indian background, they're fortunate enough to know that we are souls. But that realization is extremely difficult to achieve. Because we find that in our day-to-day interactions and day-to-day life, we are all based on our bodily concept. We do not see the soul in everyone. If we see the soul in everyone, then Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Mamayamsha Jiva Loka Jiva Bhuta Sanatan. Each and every soul is my ansha, meaning my part and parcel. Now, if we can see that, then where is the question of disputes? Where is the question of fighting? Where is the question of disagreement? There will be full harmony. Unfortunately, there is no harmony because of the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord known as Maya that controls this material world. Now, there is another form of Maya known as Yoga Maya. And that Yoga Maya controls the spiritual world, the effect of Yoga Maya, and the pure devotees. Now, one of the effects of Maya in this material world is to make us forget God. And it makes us feel that I am God. Just like somebody, what we say, DUI, right? Sometimes the police catches somebody on the highway and does a DUI test, driving under the influence, right? Under some controlled substance or alcohol. So, in this material world, most of us, except the pure devotees, are under DUI of Maya. Uh, we are completely, and we think, just like a drunkard is going out into a bar, gets really drunk, and now the friends say that, okay, give me your keys. I'm not drinking. I'll take you home. Oh, no, no, no. You give me a plane and I'll fly it. I have no issues with that. I don't need you to drive me home. So this is the influence of alcohol as an example. And the influence of Maya is that I am not this body, I'm such and such, I'm such and such, I'm such and such, I'm such and such in the material world. But in the spiritual world, also, Yoga Maya does almost the same thing, which Mahamaya does. What does Yoga Maya do? Yoga Maya also makes us forget that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Amazing concept, if you really analyze this. And Yoga Maya, like in Vrindavan as an example especially, Krishna has given her a blank check. Like, somebody says, here's a blank check, take it, use it as you please. You can even use it on me, because she makes even him forget that he is the Supreme Personality of God. He makes his devotees in Vrindavan forget that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, he is Bhagavan. Because if they are made cognizant of that fact, then the sweetness of their interactions, the sweetness of their mellows will be diluted, and everybody will be offering dandavats, even Mother Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, and all the friends. But there in Vrindavan, it's not like that. When Krishna loses in a game, then Madhumangal says, so what? Your father has 900,000 cows and he's the king of Raj, and I am a son of a poor Brahmin. You lost? Oh, Kana, you'll have to take up that punishment. Carry me on your back and take me across. And Krishna complies with that. So, Maya, Yoga Maya, Mahamaya. We are under the influence of Mahamaya. So Kardam Muni, his wife, is praising him that you are under the influence of Yoga Maya. That means you are not on the platform of material platform, you are completely spiritual. And you once made me a promise that our bodily union that I desire, you will fulfill it. So please do so. But I have been completely emancipated because of my own renunciation. Somebody who is completely renounced, who hardly eats anything, what do you think the body is going to look like? Completely emancipated, not so attractive. And she is lamenting that I'm not even attractive to you because of my renunciation. I don't know what I have done. My dear husband, I don't know if you are even attracted to me because of my body being emancipated out of renunciation. So I am struck by that emotion that I would like to have children. So you please do something. You have those siddhis so that I can become so beautiful again, and I can become youthful, and I can be some use to you so that you can get attracted to me. Because some kind of attraction is needed, right? In order to two persons to have that chemistry. So, like this, Mother Devuti was speaking words of so much praise for her husband, and then Kardam Muni praises Mother Devati that no, oh Manu's daughter. Now, one thing about the Vedic culture is that in the days gone by, they used to be the persons used to be known by the names of their parents. And that would also kind of entail the glories of the person who is the parent. So, for example, Yashodanandana, right? Yashodanandan, Nandanandan, Namami Nandanandanam, Namami Nandanandanam. Eh? The Vaishnava poet says Nandanandan. So, like that, the names of the father, the mother, and that's what Krishna is even more pleased. It is mentioned in the Shastras somewhere. We have heard that there are two type of categories of names of the Lord. One is known as Gauniya Nam, and the other one is Pramukh Nam. Gauniya Nam is examples like, Oh God, Oh Paramatma, Oh Bhagavan, etc. And Pramukh Nam is Yashoda Nandan, Nanda Nandan, Vrindavan Chandra, Gopinath, Govind, Gopal, wherein the names of his devotees and his pastimes are encompassed in that name. So when we take those names, Krishna is extremely pleased. Even Radharani, uh, Rishabhanu Nandini, ki jai, 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 right? Kirtida Sundari, ki jai, jai, jai. Mother's name is Kirtida. Father's name is Rishabhanu. So that attracts more attention instead of just calling him Bhagwan or God. So that's what attracts even the Supreme Lord. So, like this, he says, Oh Manu's daughter, because Devati was one of the Prajapati, Manu's daughter. Do not be disappointed. Uh, very soon, the Supreme Personality of Godhead will appear in your womb. So, he was a Siddha Purush. Her husband Kardam Muni, he could see that very soon the Lord himself will take birth in your womb. And like this, we find that she gave birth to Kapil Dev. Kapil Dev is an incarnation of Krishna, and especially he taught Sankhya Yoga, the analytical study of the 24 elements that would lead gradually to the self-realization that the Supreme Lord is behind everything. Nowadays, the scientists, they analyze in the labs and all the different research institutes. They do the analysis of all elements and different, but the conclusion is not the Supreme Lord. And that's the difference between the analytical analysis of the modern science and the analytical analysis of that Kapil Dev taught his own mother, Devati. So we find this in this as the personality of Godhead will be worshipped, and your name will spread because you will be the mother of this and the teachings of Brahman, meaning spirituality, as Sankhya Yoga, will be taught. Now, it is mentioned that in the Bhagavad Gita, even when there is union between husband and wife, that particular union is known as Kamo Asmi. Dharma viruddha bhuteshu Kamo Asmi. Kam raga vivarjitam balam balvantam chaham. Dharma viruddha bhuteshu Kamo Asmi. He says, I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire, and I am sex life which is not contrary to religious principles. This is a very important point. It is not that renunciation means not to have union and not to get married. No, one can, but it is only meant for procreating Krishna conscious children. And that also is a big seva in marriage. Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur had 10 children. So many grihasthas have many, many children, but all first class devotees. Because what we are doing is when we get married and when we beget children, the goal of the father and the mother is to beget Krishna conscious children or to train them so that it will perhaps be their last birth. And then they will enter into the spiritual kingdom, into Vaikuntha. What a big service that is. That is a seva to Krishna. We are saving souls. So, dharma, when we do not have the union, that is, when we do have union for sense gratification, then that is dharma viruddha. That is against the principles of religiosity. Srila Prabhupada had mentioned in that purport, in this particular verse of Bhagavad Gita, and again, just to remind all of us, we are discussing the renunciation and the importance of renunciation in Krishna consciousness. A person, Prabhupada writes, sexually inclined for sense gratification is unrighteous. Is unrighteous. In Diti's appeal to her husband for union, it was not exactly that she was afflicted by such mundane desires, but she desired sons, which is to propagate mankind, because even Kardam Muni is one of the Prajapatis. In the beginning of the creation, everything was empty. And when everything was empty, Lord Brahma took birth from Garbhodaksai Vishnu. And then slowly, from Lord Brahma's body, different beings appeared. And then they were instructed by Lord Brahma, now you procreate and populate this world, populate this material world. So since she had no sons, she felt also poorer than her co-wives. So Kardam Muni had other wives as well, because Manu had many daughters, and they were all married to Kardam Muni, and one of them was Devati. So in those days, yes, it was possible. So like this, we find that after many, many years, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared in the womb of Devati. And in today's verse, Tat Kardama Ashrama Padam Saraswatya, meaning we also need a conducive environment to do tapasya, to be renounced. So here in this particular verse, it is mentioned that the ashram of Kardam Muni. Now the word ashram, one time I had heard His Holiness Radhanath Swami, the word ashram. He says that ashram means to cultivate Krishna consciousness, whether it is brahmachari ashram, grihastha ashram, vanaprastha ashram, or sannyas ashram. The word is what? Ashram. Ashram means one who voluntarily accepts difficulties to control the senses. That is ashram. Shram means difficulty. We find that it's most of the Indian languages, it's the same word in Hindi or Gujarati or Marathi. Shram means difficulty. And ashram means to take upon oneself austerity. That's what ashram. So all these four ashrams are meant to cultivate Krishna consciousness. So Tat Kardama ashram, the ashram of Kardam Muni, was situated Padam Saraswatya. Saraswatya means the river Saraswati. So river Saraswati on the banks of. So wherever we find, previously in the Vedic culture, the great sages always used to reside by some river or some pond that is very holy, because rivers in themselves are good for the purificatory process. Just by looking at them. Again, Thakur Bhakti Vinodan, the Ekadashi song, When I look at the Ganges, I feel completely satisfied. He mentions that. When I take the darshan of the river Ganga. So, like this, his ashram was situated to cultivate austerities on the banks of the Saraswati. And Swayambhu, Lord Brahma's name is Swayambhu. Swayambhu Sakam Rishibhir. Uh, Lord Brahma, along with many other sages and demigods like Marichi Adibhir. Marichi is one very exalted rishi. Adibhir means etc. Abhyayat. Uh, they all came there. Once they came to know that Mother Devati was bearing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Lord Brahma is known as Swayambhu. Why? Because he doesn't have the conception like a normal human being where there is a father and mother. He appeared from the navel. There's a lotus. Very quickly, I will try to uh, explain the part of creation wherein Lord Krishna in Golok Vrindavan, he expands simultaneously. On his left as Srimati Radharani as Haladini Shakti. On his right, he simultaneously expands as Lord Balram as the Sandhini Shakti, and he himself is known as the Samvit Shakti. From Lord Balram, the entire creation, spiritual and material, happens. So it is not through Krishna, it is through Lord Balram. And Lord Balram, the first quadruple expansion happens in the next planet, spiritual planet, known as Mathura, as Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. Then, from that Sankarshan of that Mathura, the next quadruple expansion happens. Again, another set of Vasudev, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Sankarshan. And from that Sankarshan, three Vishnus source, Sankarshan, is known as the Mul Sankarshan. And that Mul Sankarshan gives birth to the Karanodakshai Vishnu, or the Vishnu that known as Mahavishnu. And Mahavishnu's, what he does is, when he reclines in the causal ocean, or it's also known as Viraja, and just by exhalation, like we do pranayam, right? Those who are familiar, inhale, exhale. So when Mahavishnu exhales, millions and millions of universes of Brahmans are created. And when Mahavishnu inhales, all the Brahmans are destroyed. Half a breath. So can you imagine the time? It goes into trillions and trillions of earthly years. Just half a breath of Mahavishnu. So this Mahavishnu, when he exhales, a lot of the universes are created, Brahmans, and they are empty. Imagine a football and nothing inside it. And then, by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Balram, and Krishna, non-different in Golok, Mahavishnu expands himself into each Brahman, into each ball, and he is reclining in his own transcendental sweat that is known as Garbhasagar. And there he reclines on a serpent bed, and the whole ball is empty. It is just Garbhodakshai Vishnu reclining. And then from his lotus navel appears a wonderful golden lotus flower. And the first created being, Lord Brahma, appears inside the stem of the flower, which is a stem is more or less analogous to the umbilical cord. And he is completely bewildered. It's completely dark. He doesn't know what to do. And he simply climbs up in darkness and reaches the top of the lotus. And he looks left, he looks right, and he can't find anything. It's complete darkness. And at that time, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna of Golok Vrindavan, imparts him knowledge through his flute. Have you seen the picture cover of Brahma Samhita? He initiates him with the Brahma Gayatri, the Gopal Gayatri, and he gives him that knowledge about spiritual worlds, especially his home, Golok Vrindavan. Krishna personally instructs him, gives him that information. Because we find in the Brahma Samhita, 5th chapter, it's full of description of Golok Vrindavan. So who gave it to him? Krishna of Golok. He initiated him and he gave him that knowledge. And that is why it is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, very first verse. Om Janmadiyasya Yatonvayat Itaratascha Arteshwa Bhigya Swarat Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. The spiritual knowledge was given to Adi Kavi. Adi Kavi here means Lord Brahma, the first poet. Because he's composed so many wonderful compositions. Brahma Samhita. Samhita means a collection of prayers. And they're so beautiful. Each and every word. We sing that every day. Right before Guru Puja in Sringar Darshan. Right? Don't we? Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govindam Adi Purusham Venurkwanantam Arvindam Dalayataksham Barhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Visheshashubham Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. So many wonderful verses that Lord Brahma composed after Krishna gave him the knowledge, after he initiated. And that is why Lord Brahma, our Sampradaya, is known as Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. He is our first Guru after Krishna in our Parampara. Because then Lord Brahma gave that knowledge in Parampara to Naradji. Naradji gave it to Vyasdev, Vedvyas. And then it came down, 32nd in line, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. As it is. So that is why he is known as Swayambhu. And Marichi Adivir Abhyat. Marichi was a great personality at that time, and even these are like those personalities that they are almost eternal. They were present even when Sukadeva Goswami, in the 60,000 sages that were present when they were hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Marichi was present, Naradji was present, Vyasdev was present. What's his name? Lord Ramachandra's guru. Vasishtha. Vasishtha Dev was present. All of them were present. So Marichi was also present. And even I think in the Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned that the great rishis, like that Krishna mentions, and his name is also present in Marichi. So Marichi actually appeared from the mind of Lord Brahma. And Marichi had great son, Kashyap Muni. Kashyap Muni is the father of the demons as well as the demigods. And then from Kashyap also, from Kashyap came from the womb of Daksha's daughter Aditi, Vivaswan took birth, the sun god. So these are all great personalities. So because Lord Brahma is mentioned in this verse, Marichi is mentioned, and also Saraswati. So a little bit about the Saraswati, and we will wrap this today's discourse. The Saraswati River is a significant part of the Vedic period. Prabhupada has written that. And what is it? It is believed that it dried up about 5,000 years ago. So now we cannot actually see it. And it is mentioned that it is due to climatic and tectonic changes. The different Himalayan ranges that the icebergs melted and then it formed, because the source is coming from there. All the rivers, they come from the Himalayas. Ganga, Jamuna, Saraswati. And some believe that Saraswati river still flows underground and meets Yamuna and Ganga at Prayag. So recently we all saw there was this big news about the Kumbh Mela and people took bath there. So it's the confluence of these three rivers. Although Saraswati is subtle, but it is still considered to be present along with Ganga and Jamuna. So this is the common understanding that whenever and wherever Ganga and Jamuna join, Saraswati is also present. So therefore, it was very conducive for Kadam Muni to perform his austerities on the banks of Saraswati. So thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. If there is any questions, comments or corrections, please feel free to. Yes, Mataji here.
It's probably a silly question, but I'll ask it anyways. So I believe in Krishna Lila, Subhadra is Yogamaya.
Correct.
So I'm wondering, in Chaitanya Lila, because Krishna seemed to send everyone before him, before he advented.
I'm sorry, repeat the last sentence.
Krishna seemed to send all of his associates.
Correct. Yes, but it descends with his associates, yes.
So I'm wondering who is Yogamaya? Was she part of that Lila? Did she come also? And if she did, who was she?
Great question, and I have no answer. I don't know. I'm being honest. Yes. Who was she? Actually, upon thinking, there is a temple of Praudamaya in Navadvip. So she is present along with Lord Shiva. They are both together. When I'm thinking in Navadvip, that's one of the places of pilgrimage that all devotees go to when they perform the Navadvip Parikrama, Navadvip Mandal Parikrama. So she is known as Praudamaya. And I'm sure she makes different arrangements for Mahaprabhu and his associates for the rest. But if there's somebody else who can add to it, I will personally also appreciate it. Who else is that personality? But there is a temple of Proud Maya that we have taken darshan there. So. That's okay if nobody else is.
I have to construct the question for clarity.
Okay.
So, Prabhupada often says, we hear it over and over, and even in the Upadeshamrita, it talks about this, in Grihastha life, procreating for the purpose of sex life, only for the purpose of creating Krishna conscious progeny, and with this very elaborate thing ahead of time also to do that. So I've been listening to this series of class by Parshad Prabhu on the Upadeshamrita. It's a very long series.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the points he makes in this class is, he references the verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, I am sex life that is not contradictory to Shastra.
Correct.
And he elaborates on this by saying, in other Shastras, in other scriptures, that a variation, a gradation of what's appropriate, meaning, purest form would be only procreating for the purpose of Krishna conscious children after doing that process. whatever that is, in that book. Or this, or this, or this. And then the lowest level of shastrically okay sex life is just intimacy with your spouse and only your spouse whenever anyone wants it. So my question is, I'm contextualizing my question. My question is, should we only be shooting for the highest standard? Is Prabhupada telling us the highest standard? Should we only be endeavoring for the highest standard at the risk of failing and somehow getting lost in that failure? Or should we be honoring these gradations and wherever we're at? And I'm using this point because you brought up this point, and this is one of the ways it manifests in my mind. But this could be applied to any gradation found in Krishna consciousness, in Shastra, which it seems to be there's a lot of gradation, but we seem to mostly just talk about the highest standard. And so, I'm just curious how to.
Good question. Just not the union of sex life. There's gradations for everything that we try to practice in Krishna consciousness. So one has to act according to one adhikar. We should not be blindly, not, I don't want to use the word blindly, we should not try to run so fast that we fall. In other words, we should not imitate the pure devotees. So it's a gradual process, but we have to be conscious. That's why Prabhupada coined these two wonderful words, Krishna consciousness. Right? We may have certain defects, let me put it that way. But if we are conscious of improving so that our Krishna conscious life can get better and better, then that consciousness itself will lead us to that highest. I'm not able to do it now, but I would like to get there. I'm trying, but I'm not able to do it. I'm trying, but the forces of Maya are so strong on me that I am always succumbing. But please, my dear Lord, I would like to uplift myself. Oh Mahaprabhu, oh Srila Prabhupada. So that consciousness, that fervent prayer, the cry, will take us to the highest grade, because you use those words. So it's very difficult. Practically speaking, what is written in the Bhagavad Gita, that, but how many of us really, if we are honest, sex life is, just like, for our sense gratification. I mean, it's a fact. Exactly. And that is why Prabhupada recommended one nice thing, that before having union with your wife, husband and wife chant 50 rounds. It's a recommendation. Now that can be done, and then that will take us to that consciousness level that yes, we are having this physical union here, but we have a purpose behind it. It is just not to satisfy each other's senses, but there is a higher purpose. So that higher purpose, consciousness, happens when we follow the acharyas, Guru Sadhu Shastra. But most of us, we fail to remember those things at a certain point when it is absolutely necessary. Whether it is sex, or whether it is anger, or whether it is whatever, we succumb and we forget all the good advice that we know already. And that is the reason sense control is most important, and that's what this subject was all about. The more we practice sense control, and one of the best ways of practicing sense control is chanting the holy names sincerely and following the four regulative principles. Even following the four regulative principles is a big task for many. If we are honest with ourselves, how many of us have sometimes missed somewhere since our initiation? Have we all not succumbed to it? I have. I'll be very honest. Sometimes not being careful, reading the ingredients on an item on the supermarket, or sense gratification. I'm hungry. We are going to this wedding. It's all vegetarian, and not really prying into whether it's got onion garlic in it, turning a blind eye. I'm too hungry to, or that bottle of ketchup looks great, but it's got onion powder or garlic powder. So, and that's what Krishna consciousness is. It's a gradual elevation. And that is why there are scriptures in the mode of ignorance, like the Puranas. 18 Puranas are divided into mode of ignorance, mode of passion, and mode of goodness. Slowly to elevate. Okay, it's true. Some people argue meat eating is allowed in the scriptures. Yes, it is, but there is a particular way. We want to eat meat, but we don't want to follow the rest of the 100 rules. We want one rule we follow. Oh yes, meat eating is allowed, but the other 99 rules we ignore. As an example, that we are only allowed to eat on a certain day, on a fortnight, on the dark fortnight, offering it to Goddess Kali, her expansion, and then speaking to that animal that we are sacrificing for our sense gratification. In this life, I'm killing you, but in the next, you may kill me. So slowly, with that rules we follow, then we'll think one day that meat eater, why am I doing this? Is it really necessary? So then they gradually go from ignorance to passion, passion to goodness, and from goodness, by the mercy of Guru Gauranga, Suddha Sattva, pure transcendental. So it's a process. It's a process, and very valid point. Yeah. But being aware that yes, I have to get there. Sometimes ignorance is bliss for most people. But sometimes we do something wrong and we know that it is wrong, then that's a good start. Even though we may be wronging many times, at some point we will stop because of that consciousness. I'm doing wrong. That's what Prabhupada didn't teach us this. Prabhupada wanted this. Prabhupada wants us all to excel. Make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I have another question.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, we can take it offline. Yeah. Hare Krishna.